Hey guys, today we'll be doing a short review, long-term review of the Sony Xperia 1 Mark 6, okay? This phone was released just about a year ago, okay? It's not new anymore. Now we have the 1 Mark 7. But basically the 1 Mark 6 is just the same thing as the 1 Mark 7 with the exception of the new ultra-wide camera, okay? And in some ways the 1 Mark 7 is worse, okay? If you look at the reviews, the 1 Mark 7, which I don't have yet, and honestly I'm not sure if I'm gonna buy it, the 1 Mark 7 has worse sound, much worse battery as well, and just a new ultra-wide camera. But anyways, let's talk about this one. I love this Sony design, you know. It's very old school, very classic. It has a really nice sturdy feel, which I really like. I do like the fingerprint sensor. I wish the location of the fingerprint sensor was a little different, but it's okay, you know. I wish it had a Face ID or something like this as well, as another option to unlock your phone. This has the flagship processor from 2024, you know, has nice amount of RAM as well, you know, storage is 256 gigs, okay. I wish it was 512 because, you know, this phone, even now, new, costs like £1,000 or like $1,200 or something like that, which is a lot, you know. So, you know what Sony does, right? You get nothing on the box as well, just the phone, not even a cable, which is ridiculous, let's be honest, okay? Not even Apple does this, but it's fine, okay? It's fine. Honestly, I think the Xperia 1 Mark 6 is one of the worst phones Sony has ever made. And I'm gonna tell you why right now, okay? The design is a nice positive thing, but it hasn't changed, so it's nothing new, okay? The battery on this phone is actually quite good, okay? It's good. But it's not amazing, it's good. But why is the battery good? Well, they took away the 4K screen, the 4K OLED screen, okay? Which was one of the unique selling points of a Sony phone. You had the best screen ever, you know? And you can tell the difference. I had a 1 Mark 5 and I compared. You can tell the difference, you know? You can tell the difference. This screen is only Full HD, 120 Hertz, and it's not nearly as good as the other one, okay? It's a nice, fine screen, but like, even mid-range phones nowadays have better screens than this phone. I'm going to be really honest with you, okay? The sound quality is good, nothing impressive, not the worst one, is good. I actually think the 1 Mark 5 had better sound, but it's good. If you compare it to like, it's equivalent to like an S25, so the sound quality is fine. I'm not gonna play a sound here because I can't, because of copyright, but the sound quality is fine, okay? Like in general, this phone is just fine, but worse compared to the previous one. And it's more expensive than the previous one, so you know what I'm getting at, right? The problem with this phone is the price, right? If Sony had released this phone for 899 euros or pounds, or $999, like $1,000, but they didn't even release in the USA, okay? But if they had released for this price, plus the free gift, which they always give, like a free headphones, then it would be a great deal, you know? Like, come on, that's a great price. But for $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, which was the price that it was released, it's not worth it. And even, let's be honest, okay? Right now, you can find this phone for like $1,000, £1,000, or like 1,000 euros. It's not worth it, even for this price, I'm going to be honest with you, because of the camera. Unless you don't care about the camera too much, you know, you just use the main camera, you don't use the ultra-wide or the telephoto, then this phone will be okay, okay? But otherwise, it's not worth it, because with £1,000, you can buy like a Vivo X100 Ultra, Vivo X200 Ultra, which are better phones in every single way, basically. Or you can buy an S25 Ultra, iPhone 16 Pro Max, phones that are better than this in almost always, okay? So it's not worth it for this price. I would try to buy in the used market, or if you can find it for like $700 or $800, then this becomes a really good deal. So it's only worth it if you can find for under 800 euros or pounds or dollars. Otherwise, I wouldn't buy this, okay? You can find much better phones. Sure, the only thing you're going to miss is the headphone jack, because even for like $1,000, you can find phones with like 512 gigs of storage or even 1 terabyte of storage. Come on, like, who needs more than 1 terabyte of storage, okay? Like, are you really ready to sacrifice to have like really trashy cameras, you know, and a mediocre screen just to have 1 terabyte extra of storage? I mean, come on. So why am I saying this is the worst phone Sony has ever made? Well, basically because Sony has been taking away the features we love the most from the last few years, you know? And they still wonder why they keep selling less and less phones every year. Well, they took away the 4K OLED screen, okay? They took away the notification light. Do you remember that? We don't have that anymore here, okay? So if you're coming from an old Xperia, you don't have a notification light anymore. They also took away the dynamic vibration thing they used to have. They had for so many years. Another thing they took away. And they took away features from Android like they used to have. Like they used to have their own gallery app, their own music app. You know, they used to have their stickers for always on display. They took away everything. And even like the separate apps they used to have for like Video Pro, Cinema Pro, Photo Pro, they made all into one app, which seems fine. But when you go into the app, the new app doesn't have as many features as before, you know, like on the other different apps, especially for video. So you're like, what is Sony doing? And they still charging the same price or even more. Now let's talk about the cameras. This is the main camera. The main camera is actually pretty good. It's this very similar sensor to the one on this iPhone 16 Pro. So it's a good camera, okay? The main camera is very good actually. If you only use the main camera, you're not going to get disappointed, okay? Sure, some situations you might get the highlights overblown, but yeah. The ultra-wide camera is only good in good light, okay? Like, look at this photo. It was a bit lit, like, you know, it was a bit dim, the lights. And look at this, it's very soft. Even this is with night mode, supposedly, okay? And this is the main camera. As you can see, the main camera is good. But this year as well, it seems like Sony changed their color science. It looks much more artificial. I'm going to show you some more photos explaining this. Look, the main camera again. And I don't know, it just seems that Sony is oversaturating the colors too much this year. In the previous years, they didn't do this. The macro, okay, we have a new macro mode this year. I even forgot about this because it's so gimmicky. Basically, there's no AF, so you can't use autofocus. And you have to be in really, really good light. Like this was a cloudy day, and look at the quality of the camera. It wasn't even that good, okay? I was using the telephoto camera, which is trash. It has a tiny sensor, as you guys know. But when you have to take like 50 photos, of 50 photos, I was able to take this one, which was decent, but the bokeh was kind of strange. And look at the night photos. They look so bad. Like, I don't even mean like in quality, but like in colors. Like Sony like just went crazy right there. I don't know what's happening there. But when you have really, 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 really good light, okay, like inside like a spotlight or something like this one, you can take some really nice macro photos with the telephoto camera, but it has to be, you know, in manual focus, and it's really difficult. You know, you see, you have some portrait photos there at night with the main camera is decent, okay. It's not amazing, as you can see, you know, you get like some noise, and so it's kind of soft as well. You know, it's not going to compete with any flagship phone, but it's better than the last year, I think, the portrait photos. But in general, the camera this year, it just seems worse, you know, in some ways. Like, you know, you have worse color science, you know, the camera apps are like, they downgraded the camera apps, you know, and there's some things that are just not as good as before. Sure, you get now a fancy, gimmicky, you know, telephoto macro, but you can only use in really, really amazing light, and you can't use autofocus. And the One Mark 7 hasn't changed much. You know, the only difference on the One Mark 7 is that now they have a better ultra-wide camera. But it's still the same thing. So like if you're thinking about buying the One Mark 7, unless you get like it for like $1,000 or less, I wouldn't buy it because it's basically the same thing as the One Mark 6. But it's actually worse in some areas, as I told you before. So honestly, at this rate, I just gave up on Sony, honestly. And they're also not even selling their phones anymore on the carrier stores in the UK. They stopped selling this year. Like last year we had the One Mark 6 at O2 and EE and stuff. But this year they don't. So I think Sony is just pulling out altogether of the Europe. And maybe we won't even see an Xperia One Mark 8. Because, I mean, if they keep doing stuff like this, it's just better they stop selling phones because, you know, it seems that they don't care about at all the customers. Anyway.